So today, folks, we have a new leak coming from the Nintendo Switch 2 space out of manufacturers in China. This is a little different than the leak we had earlier this year where we had a prototype image. We're going to revisit that leak and then look at the new one. We have some new CAD file images that appear to be coming from a Chinese manufacturer that handles Nintendo Switch 2 accessories. And there's some new things in these renders we want to check out. Look, I originally found this stuff over at Family Boards. I'll put a link over to the post over there. And a lot of the internet sleuths out there have determined that these seem to be coming from a Chinese manufacturer. These will not be the exact files Nintendo uses to make the product. Nintendo would be using injection molding to begin with. They wouldn't be using like print files, but these would be the sort of files that a third-party manufacturer would be using to make accessories. So I find this to be just really interesting to think about. So we're going to go ahead and look at the old leaks that lead into the new files, what the differences are, and what some of these differences could mean for the future of Switch 2. Obviously, all that really matters is the damn system gets revealed. But until then, this is the kind of stuff we have to work with. So take it for what you will. This is a leak that's out there. Whether or not this is the final design is a totally up in the air thing. But there is some neat things we see on it that would be cool if it is legit. That being said, folks, if you're enjoying this video, you want to stay up to date on all things Switch 2, all you got to do is subscribe right here to Nintendo Prime, and let's go ahead and dive right in. So these are the old leaks. Like, we remember this one. This is one with the PCB board. This was from October of 2023 is what this board is dated to. For everything that we could tell that these are legit real leaks. Like, this is the real inside of a prototype Switch 2. Biggest thing we can see here is the extra button. Obviously, the protrusions on the Joy-Cons that support a more click-in style instead of a slide-on. And then we have, obviously, the USB-C port. So USB-C port up top, and then seemingly one sort of off-centered down here. So that's pretty interesting. And we have some render files from this. This, again, is from those CAD renders. But these aren't the new ones, right? This is just based off of what was given. You see here the bat that looks very much like a Switch OLED, except it got those two really hard-to-press things there. So looks pretty good. Then we get to this. This is, in fact, a new render, never seen before. This render shows a couple of interesting details. Obviously, we're seeing a bit more stylized design on these press-in buttons. So maybe these aren't even like release buttons. Maybe these are just extra buttons. Maybe we just have an extra button back there that we can hit with our fingers. That, to me, is quite interesting. You're seeing some larger buttons here for like the SL and SR buttons, making them obviously easier to press. So I think that's a good thing. You're also seeing this little middle section, which is probably where it clicks into to power the Joy-Cons and recharge them. On the bottom, you're seeing kind of large cutouts. So like this hole and this hole kind of line up with what you see on the current Switch. They're like little guide holes that help it line up properly with the dock. But then we see this little larger cutout here. It looks a bit larger than the one on the current system. Current system is basically just a USB-C port. This one has a bit of a larger cutout. What the purpose is for that, we don't know. But the top section here is where things get really, really interesting because we see our USB-C port here. We see, either a headphone jack or microphone jack, or maybe that's what's over here. We also see our traditional, like this is where the power button currently is, and then our volume up and down, our little rocker button. But we have these three additional buttons up here. And I have no idea what those three buttons are for. This right here is probably like a sensor, like a light sensor to do like auto screen brightness and stuff. But we have no idea what these three buttons are. Is one a camera button? Is one a camera off button? Is it something else? I don't really know. Like, we have three new buttons at the top. We have our cartridge slot here. So this is what's interesting. You can see the U-shaped design that we've seen rumored and talked about already, the U-shaped kickstand. We have another look here. Let's go ahead and zoom this one in. All right. So as we look here, we'll see a brand new, kind of the thing that you slide the controllers on. I forget what it's called. This is like a new one of those. Or maybe this is just actually a side. Actually, this is just like a side backwards look. Just a really weird angle on this render because it looks scrunched together, but that's just an odd angle. Here we see a close up of what looks like the left Joy-Con, and you might be seeing this part here, and this might make you go, "Oh man, are they going back to like the 3DS slide pads?" I mean, you can come down here and look like these look like the 3DS slide pads, but we're gonna see an angle that shows no, they're still protruding out. They're still traditional. They're just concave, but they are traditional joysticks. We're seeing here with the two buttons again. This one, remember, on the old files had a C on it. So for capture, camera, those are kind of the two biggest guesses. What's nice here is the bezel. So we notice here, we see the screen here. This looks like a pretty small bezel. I mean, you have your plastic on the outside, but the actual bezel space is pretty small. I like that it's pretty small because the smaller the bezel is, even if it is using a side-lit LCD, the smaller that bezel is, that'll help not make the Switch 2 seem overly large compared to Switch OLED. Having it be slightly bigger, I'm cool with, and I feel like when you see edging like this, that feels like it's just only slightly bigger, so I like that. Otherwise, you see pretty much the traditional, your plus minus, your face buttons, over here your face buttons as well that make up the D-pad. As we come down further, there isn't a whole lot here on this one. This is like the bottom, and this is where I talked about the cutout. You see this cutout? That is a odd-shaped cutout for the USB-C port. Now, maybe this is just to tell accessory manufacturers, hey, don't put anything here, like leave this space available. Maybe it's due to heat venting or something else. But I just find it interesting. Then you see a notch back here. It looks a little bit deeper than the one on current Switch. This does bring into question if the old Switch docks are going to be compatible with Switch 2. From what we're seeing here, I would venture to say no, the old Switch docks will not be compatible. But I guess we'll have to wait and see, obviously, on that. Then we get over here to this render. And this is just really showing like the back of the system. Again, you can see clearly the three buttons up here with the USB-C port, which looks like the USB-C port's been extra durable. Like it extends out a little bit. I think that's probably for durability reasons. Also, what's interesting is that these three buttons, these might not be buttons. I want to be very clear here. On the current Switch, these three protrusions that look like buttons are exactly where the vents are on the current Nintendo Switch. And it's possible that like these are just like pop-outs. Like in a render file, like you literally would just pop those pieces out and they would just be holes, and that would make sense if they're air vents, right? So it is possible these aren't new buttons and just air vents. But we do, this looks like the headphone microphone jack right here based on this back side here, because you see how it comes down a little bit. This one over here doesn't. This could just be a screw hole. Or maybe it's something else. So it's probably power volume rocker. These are probably just protruded air vents. And then you have your headphone jack and then your USB-C port. What is nice to see is that if these are newer, more updated model renders, that yes, the USB-C port is in. You also get a nice look at these little back triggers here that we've seen on previous renders. And you see the USB or the U-shaped look here. And you can kind of see how off-center the slot is. Like this is the center where the USB-C usually is, but then this one's a little off. Now, maybe there's an extra connection in here. Maybe Nintendo's using a proprietary non-USB-C connection. I have no idea. That would be quite interesting if there's no USB-C down here at all, and that's why USB-C is up here on top, over here. Maybe there's a reason for that. As we scroll down here, we also see this one that's more like a lined layout. And again, you can see these three things here. Again, the more I look at these, the more they look like they're probably just holes for the vents. Because right now, the only air vents I saw were speaker vents. That's not great, right? That's not great. But if you wanted evidence that that this stick here is not actually flat, all you need to do is look at this one right here. This side look shows that it's clearly up from it a little bit. Even here, if you look close enough, you can kind of see the circle indent in here where it's more of a traditional control stick. Let's see if we have another look here. Yeah, like this one. So you can see it's really heightened up. So you don't got to worry about these being like the 3DS sticks based on what we're seeing here. But again, you compare these to these original files here. Obviously, these ones look a little bit even taller, although they also look like they might be still concave a little bit. So again, and these are renders that are supposedly from a 2023 prototype that's right here. So if nothing else, these new CAD renders are just giving us an idea of some other stuff going on. Again, probably air vents here. A different design on the bottom, smaller bezels, not a whole ton of new details we learned, but enough to at least bring it up. Again, obviously what we really want to see is Nintendo reveal the damn thing. They reveal it. We don't have to do these speculative looks at these, these CAD files that are for accessory manufacturers. I do appreciate the accessory manufacturers are clearly not giving a shit about any NDAs and just putting this stuff out there. That's fine, but like Nintendo, all you gotta do is reveal it. Because I kind of feel like the next sort of leak that's going to happen will be like an actual retail version leaking out of your manufacturers, like literally images of final product. If I'm Nintendo, that fear would make me want to reveal now. Or maybe Nintendo just doesn't give a shit. I talked about this in a prior video. Maybe it's all part of their master plan. They know leaks and stuff are going to happen. They don't really care because they think it helps them. I mean, I would say these CAD leaks aren't going to hurt them, and they might even make people feel more confident about the way that kickstand looks, or very curious about why we have extra space on the bottom USB-C port that we presumed was a USB-C port, but maybe it's not. Or hey, a better look at those buttons and how they actually look like they're functional buttons that you would actually maybe want to use. So maybe Nintendo's adding a third L and a third R button. I think that's kind of interesting if that's what those are, but anyways, you guys have to let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. I am Nathaniel Robojants from Nintendo Prime, and I'll catch you in the next video.